Okay, I'm ready when you are. Okay, we will start this international lectures. Good morning, Professor Manfred Meyer. Guten Morgen. Okay, good morning, students. Now we have distinguished speakers from Germany, our partner university, Westphalian Hochschule. For today's lecture, the topic is issue in IT project management. Okay. Before we start the lecture, I will introduce Professor Manfred Meyer first. Okay, our distinguished speakers, Dr. Manfred Meyer is professor for business informatics in Westphalian University of Applied Science in Bocholt, Germany. He also a fellow with Capgemini, one of the top 5 IT consulting companies worldwide, and an independent consultant in IT, online learning, and also project innovation management. Okay. He holds an MSc, Master of Science, and PhD in Computer Science for Kassel University. Sorry, my pronunciation is incorrect. Has published more than 40 conference papers, journal articles, and books in the area of logic programming, online learning, digital tools in education, as well as entrepreneurship and innovation. And in 2018, he received a fellowship for innovation in the digital teaching learning by the state of North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany. Dr. Meyer has already visited Atmajaya University a few times as a guest professor since 2017. I knew him since 2017 and has also been lecturing at universities worldwide, including Canada, Indonesia, Mexico, Namibia, New Zealand, and Vietnam. Since 2019, he is a project manager for GAIB. GAIB is a global and intercultural project experience funded by DAAD for years 2019 until 2023 that brings together students from Peru, Namibia, Germany, and Indonesia to gain a truly global and intercultural project experience by working on a real-life project together. Yeah, I have been known him since 2017. I also have visited him in Germany and Faculty of Engineering with a Faculty of Business and Communication, already have collaborations. Yeah, our students, industrial engineering, have also sent the students, to Germany to have like a student exchange, for a semester, for 1 semester. We and also our student also include in a GAIB project, since 2019, For next year, this is the 3rd GAIB projects, and the client is Peru. Before, the client is Namibia, and for this year, the client in Indonesia in Puspanita, and for the next years, the client is our partner university in Peru. Okay. This is the brief introduction for Professor Manfred Meyers, and welcome, Professor Manfred Meyers. Time is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ronald. It was a long introduction, so thank you very much. And as you mentioned, there is a an ongoing cooperation between our both institutions, and yeah, I'm happy to be here. So you won't recognize this session I do from the hotel in Jakarta, currently visiting Atmajaya for the Guide project, as Ronald mentioned. So yeah, welcome to this guest lecture. As I said, I'm pleased to be here, and I would like to share some slides with you, of course. So yeah, I can do this now. Okay. So, yep, and give me a second, so then we can start this. Okay. So now you should see the slides, that's correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so welcome to my guest lecture, which I have only little time for delivering this. And of course, the topic IT project management that fills a whole lecture, one semester at least. So you can focus on different aspects in this topic. But what I want to do is, and I talked to Ronald before, so I would like to touch some critical issues in IT project management. So as Ronald already introduced me, I have some experience in running projects, also in consulting with companies when projects get into trouble. So what I want to achieve in this lecture is to raise your awareness for some of these issues. So hopefully at the end, when you leave this lecture, you have some understanding, of course, of what are the issues. But there are so many techniques and methods and tools and all these things. We are not going to touch any of them in detail in this lecture. But I want to focus your attention on a few aspects that, to my experience, are really crucial to bring IT projects to success. So, okay, let's start. So the agenda, what we are going to talk about, it's basically a very short introduction. I will keep it very short. And so it would be great if you could stay on mute during the lecture, but of course, feel free to, if there is any question coming up, then maybe to send a message on the chat, and I will make sure that at least at the end I will reserve some time to answer some questions. Okay, so let's directly start. So Ron already introduced me. So what I want to point out is about all these formal achievements, but what drives me to this presentation or to this lecture is that beside being at the university, before that I was with Capgemini, and I'm still working as a fellow for them. So that is, I got involved in lots of IT projects, and some I was guiding from the beginning, but in other circumstances, clients came to us when the project was already in a difficult situation. So it happened to visit a lot of projects which really struggled, and then we were called in to help getting these projects back on track. And so I want to share some experiences from these projects. So yeah, basically, as Ronald mentioned, so our university, some pictures from there. Remarkable that also our university and Atmajaya, we run 3 campuses. I just recognized this morning when preparing some slides for this presentation. So that's the similarity between our both institutions, just kind of a fun fact. Okay, so what I want to start is, why do we have to care about project management, especially in software projects? So there is a very famous study, which is being carried out over many years already. Unfortunately, the latest result is the study from 2015. The next one is still to come out. But it's, I mean, there is a trend which makes it even worse, what we can see. If you look at these charts, and then you recognize that about all the projects, so there is the majority that is not on budget, not on time, and only the majority, but many are not meeting the target. So that means lots of IT projects, they do fail. The next slide will go into a bit more detail as regards the size of the projects, but I would like to start this session asking you whether you have any ideas why these projects fail. Why do IT projects fail? When we're talking about IT projects, we mean projects that are delivering software. Maybe entire IT systems, hardware and software, but the main aspect is with software. So do you have any idea? You may open the mic and just answer. Any idea why do IT projects fail? What may be the reason? Don't be shy. Any idea? Sorry. Yeah, you could also use the chat. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Sebastian, any idea about project management?
Why do projects fail? I mean, you set up a project means, yeah, you're organizing all the resources to deliver some product at the end, and it appears that either you're not on budget, so you consume more money, more resources than planned. You're not on time, that means you're too late, or you're not on target. That means, yeah, okay, there is some lack of knowledge. Yeah, lack of knowledge could be different knowledge about the application, knowledge about project management. But believe me, that is not the main reason. It's not that there is not enough knowledge about how to manage projects or not enough understanding of the business application. So that can be a reason, of course. Yeah. Okay, other ideas? Well, what makes IT projects different from other projects? For example, if you have to build a house, a factory, a road, something tangible. No? I already gave part of the answer now, I see. Yeah, so if it's talking about tangible products, yeah, then of course the difference is that software isn't tangible. You can't see software. You can't see how do you want to know whether you are close to finish or whether you are just at the beginning. Yeah, if you build a house, you can easily recognize, okay, it's almost finished. Yeah, so 80% of the work is done. But in a software system, how do you judge the progress? Yeah, it's purely virtual. That's one reason. And it's about the complexity. So software systems are the most complex things that humans have ever created. Yeah? So no technical system, the hardware, what you can take into your hands, is as complex as software systems. Yeah? So we have huge, complex software systems where I've been in a project with 120 people in the project, and believe me, no one in the project knows any detail of the system. So you have to rely on other people knowing details, you have to cooperate, you have to communicate, and the problem is that you really can't see. Yeah, you only have some performance indicators. You can talk about how many use cases you have accomplished. You can talk about how large your software system, lines of code in former times, your software system is, but it's not that easy to judge. Okay, so this is about so many problems that do fail in IT business. And also there is a breakdown as regards the size of the project and the number of projects that failed. And if you look at this, so the really grand projects, really successful, green light, so they are on target, they are on time, they are on budget, it's only 6%. Yeah? And the highest number of failed projects are with the big projects. So it has to do something with the complexity. It has to do something with the number of people involved, with the complex task, with the number of people around, the stakeholders. So it's a matter of complexity. And the contribution in the chat as regards the cause for the failure of problems, of course it has to do something with knowledge. But if you compare the results of these studies over the time, then you can also see that there is some improvement, because now there is more knowledge, there's more experience in managing projects. However, projects do fail a lot. And this is something that is quite inevitable, because if you go to the definition of a project, then something is only regarded a project if it really is something that you do for the first time. So it comes with a lot of risks. It's something with challenges. If you do it the second time or a third time, then it becomes a routine. Then it's no longer a project. Projects contain risk. And so project management is about dealing with the risks. So that is why I put in the beginning in my outline, I put, from my experience, some critical aspects, which is scope management and risk management. So dealing with risk is essential, and it's especially important for IT projects. Okay, so let's go further. Oops. Yeah. So when you go to project management literature, so it's the first thing you meet is there are the 4 P's of project management. Yeah. So what does it mean? That is just that there are 4 aspects that you have to pay attention to, and the most important is that you're dealing with people. What? People? You're building a technical system. You're building software. Where are the people? In the next slide, we will see it's all about people. It is engineers that build the system. Engineers who need to be creative and to build the system to be used by humans, people. And of course, you need support within an organization. So you need to convince people to give the support to the project. So it's all about people around. And there is a very famous book in the business, which is by Tom DeMarco from the US. And he talks about the human factor in software development. So he, for the first time, long ago, of course, but for the first time, he focused on the importance of the human aspect in software development. Although it's a technical business, the human factors are important. If your engineers are not creative, if you don't have the support within the organization, then the project is very likely to fail. Then the second P, of course, is the product, the software to be built. There are technical issues. How do you organize the software? Which programming language, tools, etc. you use? Do you build it in a way that it can easily be extended, that it's stable, that it's performing well, etc. That's about the software system itself. Then very important is the process of how you build the software system, how you organize your work. There are lots of process models like the waterfall model, one task or one step after the other. So first design the whole system, then get it down to implement the different parts, and then integrate and then test the whole system. Nowadays, only very little projects, very few projects, they use this approach. You can use this, but you need to make sure that the scope will not change. You need to make sure that you know all the requirements from the beginning. So over the last years, lots of other process models have been developed, and I'm sure you are aware of agile technologies in different areas. So also agile project management, agile software development. So this pays attention to the fact that the requirements will only become clear while you are working on it. So that involves the client, and together with the client, you work on the project and on the system. So, and then, all together is a project, which means it is some limited effort, some limited budget. There is a limited time, and at the due time, you have to deliver something that has been defined at the beginning. You have some budget available, so that leads to the magic triangle or magic square, bringing all together these aspects like costs are limited, then there is the functionality in the system, the number of people are involved, and there is this fourth component, which is the quality of the system. Because if you do not take this into account, then it can easily happen that you meet all the other three requirements, and you can even deliver earlier or add functionality, and it looks like it's still working, but there is this fourth dimension of quality, which then goes down. So you can easily imagine. So if the client comes to you and says, well, okay, I need this more functionality, or I want to have this 1 week earlier, then you may be able to deliver, but you cannot do the proper testing. You have to rush. That's something that happens everywhere. If you're in a rush, it's more likely that you do some mistakes. So this is basically then what the project sets up. Okay, so people are the most important element for successful project. I would like to stress this with a few slides. So people are all around. So it's very important to maintain a registry of the stakeholders. So people that are involved in the project. I don't want to go to all these definitions and various stakeholders, but from my experience, it's very important to maintain, as I said, a register of stakeholders. So make clear who is involved in the project. Of course, that is within the project, your practitioners. It's the customer of the project. It's also the end users. And so I saw a couple of projects failing because the end users have not been involved. So a system has been developed, and then it has been delivered, and it was supposed to be used by the end users, but they didn't like it. It didn't really meet their requirements. So long time ago, when we developed a system for the pharmaceutical business for managing contracts of special type of contracts, and then it was delivered. It was supposed to be used. Then it happened that the employees, the users, they kept some information on paper because it was not possible to process these information within the system. So the acceptance of the system went down, because end users haven't been involved as they should be. So lots of people around that you need to manage. So the project management task also includes making sure that you get the support for the project, that all relevant people are involved in the project, that at least you know about them, you know about how to contact them, and you know about their agenda towards the project. That is also quite difficult. So in some situations, I'm thinking of another project in the insurance business. So one of the top managers there at the client side, he moved, he left the company, another one took over his position, and he didn't want the project. And he didn't want the project for one simple reason, because it was defined and it was started by the other person that he took the job over from him. So it was not his initiative. And you need to keep these things, have an eye on this, because they influence the project. And of course, then you have to deal with this. Then you need to make sure what is the attitude towards the project, and then try to convince the management about the value of the project. Or if that's not possible because they just don't like it because it's not initialized by them, then to make sure that nevertheless you deliver what you are supposed to, even if it's not, or in some situations if it's not really then being used at the end. So we delivered a software system for a cell phone provider in Germany, and it was delivered. It was on time. It was on target, but the client didn't use the system afterwards. So from the business perspective, the project was successful. We got the money. So financially, everything fine, but it wasn't used at the end. But that was not our fault, but that was the situation at the client side. Okay, it's about people. And people need to be motivated. So there is the MOI model, which is quite famous. That means that you have to focus on motivation, on encouraging all the people involved, and to also encourage creativity for the project. So not go into much detail there, but okay, So once you guide such a project, then there are some aspects that really become essential to make sure that the project is successful. And to my experience, at the key of project management is risk management. So in my lectures, I always say risk management is the key function, the key task of the project manager. So if there are no risks coming up, that's part of the definition of a project, that it contains some risk. But if all the risks appear not to attack the project, so a risk is just hypothetical. So there is the risk that something can happen. But if that does not happen, then the project is being executed like it is planned. So the project manager can just get relaxed, have a drink, and watch the project being successful. Unless there is a risk which becomes a problem. And then, as a project manager, you have to act. And of course, you need to think in advance how to act, develop contingency measures. But if the project doesn't exhibit some problems, then it's just going as it was planned. So risk management is essential to be able to keep the project successful even if some of the risks become real problems. And yeah, of course, you can imagine that there are very few projects, I would say none, there's no project that doesn't run into any problem. That is normal. Yeah, that shouldn't worry you. So any project comes with some problems, comes with a lot of risk. That is part of the definition. The important thing is that you will be able to manage these risks. That means that even at the beginning of the project, you need to sit down, and I have some slide on that also. Also, you need to sit down and analyze what are the risks in the project. How do I deal if these risks really happen, if they become actual problems? So then it's cost and schedule estimation. So there's also, I mean, of course, you have to estimate the cost, and then you have to do the scheduling, etc. But when it comes to cost estimation, also I recognized in some projects a situation that those people that are involved in such a meeting where you estimate the amount of work that you need to accomplish some task, and in some situation you have some business people in that group, and then of course, because they have to sell the project, they tend to underestimate, and they tend to make the others underestimate. Or it happens that there is a proper estimation of the effort, but you know the situation, the competitors, you have some idea of what the price is that you can really get, and the estimation is too high. So say, well, your team estimates there is 500 days of work necessary. And then you calculate how much would that be in dollars or rupiah or whatever. And then you recognize, okay, that price will not succeed. And then your management or your sales forces, they come up with saying, well, okay, we have to reduce the price to be successful against our competitors. So what then happens is that you start the project, if you then are successful, you start the project with a reduced budget. So the original estimation was 500 days, and you sell the project for the equivalent of only 400 or 450 days. That means from the first day, you're running with underestimated effort. And that's almost sure that there will be delays there. So then there's one lesson learned from these situations. Try to keep this on different pages. So the one thing is the estimation of the cost, and the other one is how you sell the project. And if the salespeople sell the project at a lower price, then they are responsible for the delays. It's not the engineers, it's not you as the project manager, because you gave a proper estimate. And if you meet this budget, then you did everything right. So that should not be mixed. Then, of course, apply metrics. As I said, software is it's not tangible. So how can you tell about how far you are away from the goal, how much you have achieved? As I said, building a house, it can be quite easily said, okay, you're just at the beginning or you're almost done. A software system, you may have a look at the code, at the program code, but then to say, okay, well, there's only little work still to be done. That's different. That's difficult. Then also, as regards the quality management, so tracking of defects, and as I said, it's about people. So the project management should be people aware, should take into account that we are talking to humans. Okay, just a small remark as regards management versus leadership. So management, project management, that applies to the techniques, to use the right practices and techniques, etc. Leadership means really to lead people to do the right things and to make the project successful. Yeah. So leadership with poor management practices can be successful. Yeah. Maybe it takes more time. Yeah. It's not perfect, but that can work. But management with poor leadership, that will almost surely fail. So what is needed is really leadership as a project manager. Okay, yeah, still about people. So because people are so important in the software business. There are no machines. I mean, yeah, there's also a field of automatically generating programs. That would be kind of like in other industry sectors, where you have automated processes that produce something. But in the software business, every software system is different from the other one, and everything has to be designed individually, so it needs people to do so. So how to motivate people? I could give a whole lecture about different ways of motivating people and make them be creative and productive for the project. So monetary rewards, you can do that, but they have a limited effect. So once the most important needs are satisfied, then monetary rewards will not have much impact on the motivation. On the other side, monetary rewards, they are a symbol of that it's recognized, the contributions are recognized. So symbolically, they may have an impact, but the money itself, it may not. So instead of monetary rewards, then try to use intrinsic rewards. That is recognition, achievement. So don't really let the team know that let the team know if someone really contributes much to the project, so that you really recognize the contribution. So so that it's more not the money aspect, it's more the intrinsic motivation. Also by the work itself, that it is something that people like to do. Give responsibility to the team members, and also for the personal development of your people in the project. Give them a chance also to learn from the project and to learn something new within the project. Okay, so then that was about people. Now about the product. At the beginning, make sure that you really understand the problem, what it is about. What is the system to be developed? Who is responsible? The organization issues. I have to speed up a bit. So that is most important, that you really understand what is needed. There are these nice graphics where you have a picture showing what the customer originally wanted and then what the engineers delivered, and it looks very different because you do not listen to the people. Listen to the people and make sure you get the right requirements. And quantify the outcomes so that you can really track whether it's successful or it's a failure. So there is this nice graphic you see. Success. Trying is the first step towards failure. It's not about try something. It is about really do something. Be confident. Trust yourself. So really start doing. If it's unmeasurable, if the outcome is not precisely given, then it's less helpful. So you need to have quantified project goals. Okay, there's something coming up in the chat. Yeah, Ronald, you're right. If there are questions coming up, please do so. So I will speed up a bit. So yeah, it's about the requirements for the project, and then start scheduling, planning the project. So as I put here, time flies. So time is running fast, but you are guiding the project. You need to plan. Even if you have only limited information, anyway, plan and then revise. So you need some guidance. That is, of course, very important. At the beginning, you do some plan for the project. You design the future. And if no problems are coming up, then the project will simply behave as that. And the project manager is fine. But then problems are coming up. And so you have to do replanning. So planning is at the core of the project. And planning is not a one-time task at the beginning. You have to do planning all the time. When you create the plan, then make sure that you also focus on the context around the system to be built. That's also very important because that also decides about the success of the project. About what are the information to be delivered, and then also not only function but also non-functional requirements like performance of a system or extendability of a system. That can also be crucial when it comes to decide about the success of the system. Okay, I skipped some technical aspects here, how to do the scheduling. So there are lots of techniques. I wanted to add some more technical stuff to the lecture, but I will focus on what's really important. So when it comes to scheduling, defining the whole project, then you can come up with a plan for the entire project. But now you may ask, what about agile development? So then planning and tracking is still important because it gives you an idea of whether you are on track as regards the implementation of user stories, as regards the realization of functionality for the individual releases. So then you come up with these burn down charts, which I have an example here. For example, you have story points. That means with points are attached to user stories, to some functionality that the user demands, and you want to deliver some story points per day. And so you have an ideal chart, and you have the story points that you currently have developed or have satisfied, and then which are remaining. So the remaining story points, if they are to the upper right side of this burn down chart, then you see you have more remaining than you should have. So that's not the good situation, but if it's not far from the ideal line, then it's still manageable. Okay, you can do this for releases too. Some rules of thumb, how to schedule. Keep it simple, distribute within the team. That's important. And then levels means that every resource that you have in your team should have kind of an equal task, so that you don't have any resources that are overplanned, maybe more than 100%. Also, that may include some risk that you have to manage. And therefore, I'm coming to the risk management, or as regards the cost estimation, there are classic mistakes that we always see. Optimistic, too optimistic. Schedules are not updated. Adding people to a late project. There is a famous article also. Adding people to a late project makes it even later, or more delayed. Because it's not easy to add people to a project. They need to get to know what it is about. So they need resources by the other people in the project to get to know about the project itself. So it delays the project even further. So that's very short thinking if you add some resources, then you make the project more likely to succeed. That's not the case. Yeah. Manage expectations of others. Yeah. So also one part of project management is to really manage the expectations of the stakeholders. So make sure that you deliver what they expect. Or just leaving out a task is also a common mistake. So then there's there are two aspects I would like to focus on. The one is about scope management, as I said, and we have to make sure what we are talking about. If scope changes, that is okay. That will happen in every project, which is not just ranging over a week. Yeah, if you do a project that lasts over a year or 2 years, then surrounding may change, so scope will change. That's absolutely okay. Sometimes really unavoidable. Yeah? So you have to define the process in a way that you can intake changes in the scope. Of course, then you have to do replanning, etc. That's fine. The critical thing is, or the dangerous thing is, the scope creep. Yeah, that while you're working on the project, the scope changes, something is added, so the client asks for, oh, can you do this more change, please? Can you add this, please? Can you make it look like that? And it's all small things. But if you allow them to get into the project and your team is working on them, then the scope is kind of creeping up. And this is something that I very often saw, yeah, that it was not clearly managed. There is a scope that is defined. There's a contract about the scope. And if things change, then they have to be dealt with in a formal way. And it's an absolute no-go that the client has direct access to your developers and can just come along and say, well, can you do this, please? Yeah, that needs to be done in a well-defined process. Yeah, so scope change is fine, change is good. Obama said that's fine. So if scope change happens, so some additional functionality you get more money for, you can adjust the plan, that's fine. Yeah? But if more functions are required, and but not talking about any additional time or additional budget, yeah, that will really get your project in trouble. So how to deal with that? Different aspects. You can, yeah, the joint application development with the client, formal change approval, change request process. That's very, very common. Or just to say, well, okay, we are not going to build this in the current system. We delay this in a future release, in a future system enhancement. So this is about scope. And the second important aspect is about managing risk. Yeah, so you have to make sure that you know the risk in your project. And the normal procedure is that you come up with a register of the risk, and every risk you define, you describe, and then you evaluate as regards the likelihood of occurrence. So how likely is it that this risk will come up, and the impact, how much will it impact your project? Yeah, if there is low impact or maybe high impact, so it could be fatal for your project. So for example, that there are some extraterrestrials coming and they kidnap your project team. That's always something that I use in my class. Okay, how do you rate this? Yeah, so it may be from the impact point of view. It could be critical. So your project team is kidnapped. So who's going to work on the project? On the other hand side, I haven't heard about extraterrestrials coming and kidnapping project teams. So maybe it happens, but the likelihood is very low. And then if you combine both, yeah, to come up with the exposure, then you will have a very small number. So that really falls down in your table because the exposure is very small. Other risks, yeah, that you have some delay because people get sick, or you have underestimated some tasks, and so they are of much higher exposure. So you have to pay more attention to them. And it's inevitable that as a project manager, you always look at the list of your top risk. That is something, yeah, that if you have a dashboard like that, that a project manager every morning when you come to office, you have to check, how are my risks? Did they change in their evaluation? So if you have the risk under control, you have the project under control. Okay, update and track your risk at all times and communicate the risk to the upper management. That refers to the expectation management again. So summarizing, we started with talking about why projects fail. So there are several reasons, of course. So why do projects get into trouble? One is that the software people, the engineers, the requirements engineers, they don't really understand the customer needs. So you deliver something that is not exactly what the customer or what the end user is expecting or what he really needs. Yeah? So the system is not effective as such. Product scope. The product scope is poorly defined. That happens if you do not pay enough attention at the beginning to clearly define what is needed, and also to make sure what is not part of the scope. And then it happens when the project is being worked on. It happens that this is kind of flurry. That yeah, you may start with a scope creep, and only while you're working on the project, it becomes clear what needs to be done, what not. If your process model caters for that, if you have an agile project model, that's fine, because then it's part of the process to make sure to understand what the client needs. But if you have a waterfall model like that, for example, then you have a contract that deals with the scope. But if that is poorly defined, then the contract, then at the end, you will hardly financially come out with a success in this project. So management of changes, you need a strong management of changes. You need to say no to changes, in order to make your project successful. Choosing technology may change if it's a long-lasting project. That is always critical. That can get your project into trouble. How you can deal with that? You can do prototyping to make sure that the technology is really working. The business needs change, or the business may be ill-defined at the beginning. That can also affect the project success. Unrealistic deadlines. So there is some pressure from outside. A deadline that is not realistic, that is not matching with the budget you have allocated. User may have an impact. Sponsorship by the top management is essential. Skills, need to make sure, of course, that you have the proper skills in the project. And then also some avoidance of best practices and learning from something which went wrong. That's also a cause of failure. So there are a few common sense approaches. Just make sure you start on the right foot, as I put it, so you understand the problem, maintain the momentum. So that is about leadership. That is about that all stakeholders are really pushing the project, and tracking progress, so that you always have information about the status of the project. Not just let it go. You need to track. You need to get numbers. How many user stories you have achieved, etc. Make smart decisions. And I put here, make decisions, do not delay. Oh, there is a D missing. Do not delay. That is also most important. If you ask me about the main characteristics of a successful project manager, it is to decide, not to let the project or the time decide, but really to make decisions. That is, so undecisive people are poor project managers. And then also to conduct a touchdown. So once the project is finished, then take the time and try to get some lessons learned from the project. Okay, So I think, yeah, that's it. What I wanted to share with you. And yeah, so as regards the time, I mean, I didn't use up the 1 hour I was given, but I think we used up the slot that we had. But anyway, I would be happy to receive questions. If there are some here, that's fine too. Otherwise, contact me if you want, and I would be happy to answer. So there are my contact details, and I will also share the slides with Ronald. And yeah, so there were no questions coming up in the chat, but maybe some time for questions. But I'm done with my presentation, and I think, Ronald, you will take over now.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Manfred. For the students, any questions? Please don't be shy, because Professor Manfred is our partner university, my colleague, my close colleague. So don't be shy. Maybe sometimes you plan to study in Germany and meet Professor Manfred. Yeah, of course. Please don't be shy. Oh, Manfred, there is a Ferdi. Okay, maybe Ferdi can greet Professor Manfred. Ferdi. Hello, Pak Ferdi. Nah, Pak Ferdi. Hello.
Hello, Manfred. How are you?
Hi, nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's nice to see you again too.
Yes, so Ferdi was guiding a team in our guide project, and it was an IT project that time, developing a web portal for a client in Namibia. Quite a challenging project.
Yeah,
so,
it's really
and we also we came across some of the issues that I mentioned here. Yeah. So nice to see you in this lecture.
Yeah. It's nice to finally see you again. So, how long you will stay in Indonesia?
Until the end of this week only, unfortunately.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Any question from students? I don't know. The students too. Maybe I. Sebastian, any questions? Usually Sebastian asks the questions in the yes. Usually asks the question in the lecture. Or hello, Sebastian. Any questions?
Okay.
Oh, I don't have any question.
On the chat.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what to take home from this is I could only touch some aspects, but really when it comes to IT project management, then think about the people. It's about people, and there is a kind of a motto in the company that I was working for over a long time, Capgemini. So there is the motto, people do projects. Yeah, it's about the people that are important for the project. And it happened one time that a colleague of mine, he modified this motto into people do make projects fail. And that's also true. It is but I ask at the beginning, it is in most cases, it is because of people, about a poor management. So many aspects that lie within the people. It's not the technology that fails. In some cases, that's also true, but also in the minority of the cases, mostly projects fail because of poor management, because of human factors. And that you need to take into account. And then, as I said, risk management is essential, and scope management. So that is the main take-home messages, I think.
Professor Manfred, maybe I have a short questions. Yeah, I think you said that the managing people is important. Yeah, in your slide, I see that monetary reward is very dangerous, right? Cautiously, and there are some like intrinsic reward. My question is how to build the like recognition or others in based on your experience.
Yeah, thanks. Very good question. So, I mean, monetary rewards, that's quite easy. Yeah, you say, okay, if someone delivers on time, so you get some reward, or if you're ahead of time, yeah, then you get some reward or something like that. But with limited effect. Intrinsic motivation, it's much more difficult. It's more about the spirit within the project. It's about the recognition that you really, how you treat your team members. So give every team member the feedback that they are important, that they are part of the team, and everyone is equally contributing to the success of the project. If you expect something to be done by some of your team members, yeah, so then also give him or her the freedom to decide how to do this, so that they also have the tools to achieve the goal. Yeah, if you just say, well, this is the way you need to do this, and there is no own responsibility, then yeah, it's less motivating people. If they have some own tasks that they can decide how to achieve, then it enhances the richness of the work, and also contributes to the motivation. It's also about, for example, we had some tough times in one project, and so we had to work overtime over the weekend, and the team, they went to office and they worked on the project, and the project manager, he did not contribute to the software engineering task. He was not coding, but the team manager also came to office, and the door of his office he left open. He was working on some other things, yeah, not contributing to the coding, but he showed, okay, you spent your weekend, I also spent my weekend, yeah, so we all do this together. So it's these small things that give the impression to the team that it's really a team and it's not individuals only. Yeah, so this is something that successful project managers, they have an eye on, really to maintain this spirit. Yeah, and then of course, once you have achieved something, then give rewards that, but really rewards that count. That may be for, in that case, we ask our developers to come into office for the weekend. Then you could give some money for them as a reward. But what we did is we were inviting these colleagues with their families to have a weekend and enjoy the family being together, because that was what could not happen when they met at Saturday at the office. Yeah, so it's not about money itself. Yeah, it is about really making sure that they all feel being part of the team and being recognized, and that everyone is of equal value to the success. There is something on the chat now, yes, from Sebastian.
Yes. We read, good morning, Professor. Yeah. May I want to ask one little question. So how we can start to manage a small IT project as a students? Thank you. Maybe, yeah, how to first start to, yeah, firstly, like that, please.
I mean, basically, the thing that sometimes happens if you start a small project, you're not paying so much attention on project management issues. And you need not. I mean, you saw at the beginning, so the small projects are more likely to succeed. But anyway, they also do fail. And also for small projects, make sure, for example, that you have an idea about the risk that may stop you. And take some time and think about, okay, how do I react if some risk show up, and how can I avoid or reduce the likelihood of these risks appearing. So basically, do all we were talking about also in small projects. Some aspects, for example, the scope management. If you define the scope yourself because you're doing some project for your own, then you are customer, end user, stakeholder, and project manager in one person. Then it's not that much of an issue. But basically, I would say pay attention to the same aspects that we've touched here, even for small projects. But it's much easier in small projects. The main issue comes with that you're not experienced in managing a project when it's your first project, but the real challenges come with the size and complexity of the project. So once you have to manage a project with hundreds of people involved, our last Guy project, there were 100 of people involved, and it was quite complex to manage, especially in academia, where you can't really say, well, okay, you have to do this now, because you need to rely on all the people are willing to contribute. But that's a different story.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Manfred, for your. Any other questions? Joel, yeah, please. Good morning, Professor. Can I ask about your point of view about low-code applications? How it will impact the human resource? The low-code application.
Low-code application. What exactly do you mean by low-code application? I mean, there's different definitions.
But I think it's an application that is built with low code, with less or no programming.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe so a simple application, or
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but there are different approaches. So that's what I wanted to. I mean, low-code application in general means the approach that you have less work on the code itself, that you use a couple of tools defining user interface, etc., and that you only have. There is a saying that 40-20-40 like that you only have 20% of the effort that really goes into dealing with the code. Of course, there is a trend to use tools and then also to automatically generate part of the system. So that changes the skills that are essential, but nevertheless, at some point, you have to deal with these technical aspects. But if you compare projects nowadays, even though, especially those following this low-code approach, compare them to all the technical work you had to do with projects in the past, there is a development towards more using visual approach, more using generation of code, and that of course it changes the skill profile for the team members. So it's more from the detailed coding into a more high-level engineering task to meet the user's requirements. So answering to the question, that it will impact, that changes the skill profile, but nevertheless you will not avoid the technical details in total, but the majority of the tasks in a project will not need to be that more technically oriented, but more as regards requirements, as regards user design. For example, there is a very interesting approach of design-driven development. Yeah, so that you first come up with the design of an application, and then the function and the implementation follows later. Yeah, so it's more driven by the interaction with the user. That is also something that, for example, in our guide projects, colleagues in Namibia, yeah, they have more experience than us in the Western world with these more user-driven development. That's something where we're now going to meet. But answering the question, it will impact, and it changes the skill profile, of course.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you, Professor. Got some insight. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe one question more, please, students. Okay, this is the student actually the potential for the guide 2022, Professor Manfred. Yeah, this is the students that have a potential to apply the guide 2022. So
yeah, did some of you did some of them follow the information event yesterday? Then you got an idea what GAIP is about.
I don't know.
Okay. So I can only encourage you to think about, and then to hand in your application. So I'm not going to repeat my presentation of yesterday. I think it's still available on YouTube.
Yes, available on YouTube.
Yeah. So that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So yeah, join the project. There will be IT related tasks in the project. Definitely, it's about website development, mobile app, maybe this health monitoring system. So a lot of IT related issues, and it's a project carried out together with students from other universities all over the world for a client which in the coming year will be in Peru. So it's very international, it's intercultural, it's interdisciplinary, it's challenging. Yeah, just think about the time zone aspect. Yeah, so when you want to meet synchronously with the Peruvian peers, yeah, it can only work in the evening hours here in Indonesia. Then it's early morning in Peru. So it's challenging and rewarding. So yesterday I shared some testimonials of former students from Atmajaya that took part in the 2 projects that we already finished. I can only motivate every one of you. Think about, don't miss this opportunity. The scholarships are limited. Yeah, there will be a selection from all the applications. So make sure, yeah, you present your motivation why embarking on this project, and I would be happy to see, yeah, then when we start the project, then to see that there are some of you that I already have met in this lecture. So yeah, I can just encourage you, don't miss that opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Manfred, for the introduction about the GAIP 2022. Okay, I think the time is over. Before we finish our lecture, I want on behalf of Faculty of Engineering, I will give you the certificate of appreciation for you, yeah, Professor Manfred, as speakers in international lecture issues in IT project management. Thank you, Professor Manfred Meyer, for your sharing your insight to our students.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Maybe we take a photo, group photo together before we. Student, can you turn on your camera before I will take a photo? Please open the camera. Turn on the camera for a moment. Okay. I will take a photo. Okay. There are 2 pages here. Okay, the first page is 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then the second 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's all.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. Great.
Thank you so much, Professor Manfred. Thank you, Pak Ferdi. Attend this lecture also, and also we also had the
Okay. So thank you, everyone. And feel free if you have some questions to contact me later on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, sir.